great Bobby Belt.
Bobby Belt is an idiot.
Don't make me take off my belt.
Don't make me take off my belt.
We're not. Over to you, Bobby.
If the unthinkable happens and you trade away a young superstar, how do you make sure you get fair value in return? It's a question the Mavericks should have asked themselves. So we're going to ask it now so that the Dallas Cowboys don't have to worry about it.
Start by asking more than one team.
Well, that's what we're going to do here. I have 4 trade options for you guys here that we're going to run through. And the greater the return, the more painful it's probably going to be to deal him. So we'll go through each of these teams. I have 4 options here. We're going to start at the very top. And you guys are going to pick which one you want in return for Micah Parsons if they're just determined we should trade him, move on because we don't want to pay him. Again, nobody's saying this is what reports are or that they're going to trade him. This is just under the circumstance of them kicking around internally, which Ian Rappaport reported, that they asked themselves, what could we get? These are suggestions on what they could get and if you would take it. And the final option will be if you don't want any of these 4, you just say, I'd rather just pay Micah. All right, so first trade here, you trade Micah Parsons to the Chicago Bears for their first-round pick, which is 10th overall, their 5th-round pick, and next year's first.
So 2 1s and a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Next year first.
Yep. Next trade. You send Micah Parsons to the Cincinnati Bengals for Trey Hendrickson, their first-round pick, which is 17th overall, and a 3rd-rounder next year.
Do we know how old Hendrickson is?
30.
Thank you for that. Okay.
1 more year left on his deal.
1 year left.
You trade Micah Parsons to the Cleveland Browns for a 1st and a 3rd this year. That first-round pick is number 2 overall. Slam dunk, you know you're getting a top 5 pick by trading Micah. And you know you're getting a top of the 3rd-round pick. So essentially a back end of the 2nd. And then finally...
No Myles Garrett.
No Myles Garrett. Finally, you trade Micah Parsons to the Philadelphia Eagles for their first-round pick, which is 32, their 2nd-round pick, and then next year's first-round pick. So the highest draft capital haul is to trade him to the Eagles. You can get player and some picks from the Bengals. You can get the just standard, all right, high pick. I'm getting the most capital from the Bears. And then for the Browns, you get the most valuable draft pick possible.
No.
I'm out. I don't want the Cincy one.
Okay, Cincinnati one you're crossing out then?
Because he's 30?
Yeah. Good player.
You know that for the next 3 years, he'll probably be better than somebody you can draft in the first round, though.
If you're trading Micah...
And you're still getting a 1st and a 3rd.
It's probably a long-term play, right? The Cleveland one is interesting because I don't have any use for the 2nd overall pick.
You want to trade it.
But I want to trade it.
You could get if Tennessee takes Cam Ward like they think, you can take the best non-quarterback in the draft.
Get Travis Hunter or the next Micah in Carter.
Which, honestly, I don't want the top non-quarterback. It's an expensive risk.
Okay.
Right? I would rather trade down, get a couple of 1s. You know what I mean? You get more for
Hold
that.
the Raiders hostage for Shedeur?
Sure. So then you would trade down, you get 6, and you probably get next year's 1, and then you still have Cleveland's 2, which is a late first, essentially.
Cleveland's 3rd.
I'm sorry, Cleveland's 3rd, which is basically a late 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
That one's interesting.
And then the Eagles.
You can trade down a couple times, maybe.
Then the Eagles, you get 2 1s, number 32 this year, next year's 1, which should be a low pick, and then a 2nd rounder.
So you say you're wiping off the Bengals trade immediately as not
Not wiping it off, just on initial. It's like, you're trying to get cheaper.
Yeah. I'd probably cross out the Bengals one as well.
So we'll say Bengals trade is not happening. So that one's out. So then you're left with the Bears, Browns, Eagles, or just re-sign him.
The Bears one is the one I'm thinking about because I'm trying to assume that they're going to be bad again. All right, even though there's reports that Caleb's quarterback coach didn't even, Caleb had to bring in outside film reviewers because they weren't studying the offense enough. So 10 next year, top 10, two top 15 picks.
Yeah, I think
I'll be conservative.
Top 15 is probably fair for next year.
2 top 15 picks and then a 5th. So basically 2 top 15 picks versus Cleveland, which I'm going to try to turn into 2 top 15 picks and a 3rd.
And you do with the Bears get that top end of the 5th rounder, so that 4th you traded for Mingo, you mitigate that a little bit.
Is there an easy winner for you here, Bobby?
I like the idea of getting the number 2 overall pick in the top of the 3rd.
I kind of do too, but only again. That's for me.
It just opens up options.
Yeah.
Even if you want to trade it, it opens up options.
If you know one of the quarterbacks is going to be there, you can absolutely hold somebody. Teams trade more value. The trade value chart doesn't exist. It's the who's on the board value chart that exists.
I asked Hagee. I went down and got a drink during the break, and I was riding back up in the elevator with Hagee, and he said, "Don't you have a segment coming up?" I was like, "Yep, we're about to trade Micah." And he said, "What are some of the offers?" And so I threw some out. He was like, "Oh," he's like, "Give me a first, second, and another first." The Eagles can have him.
But then you have to look at him in the green.
Yep. So the biggest trade return gets you directly across from him twice a year.
Oh.
Or do you just say, I'm not willing to do any of this, I'm just re-signing him because I can't stomach doing any of this?
I mean, I don't have a problem trading.
Choppy would be able to stomach it. You'd be able to stomach this much easier than Luka?
Yes.
With Micah in Eagle Green?
Yeah.
Going back home, Pennsylvania?
That'd be tough. But yes, I'd be able to stomach it better.
Why?
Well, because Luka is more impactful in a game than any non-quarterback in the NFL.
And a bigger star, although Micah seems to love Dallas
He does.
as much, if not more, than Luka did, which is very high.
I would really try to trade him to anywhere but Philly. Like, I would take less than trade him to Philly. But, I mean, the impact of a defensive end is just not what it is for an NBA player.
So, are you taking any of these deals, or are you re-signing him, Chop?
I would take the Chicago deal. I'd take the Cleveland deal.
Sean?
I don't want to trade him, but
What's he want? Does he want to break the bank? Does he want Bosa? Does he want to beat Bosa?
Let's say you sign him to the CD Lamb deal. You're getting the CD Lamb deal if he stays.
We got to have a discussion over how stupid of a team building move would it be. That's the only discussion that should be taking place in Frisco. How much does this handcuff us? What is our depth? Grade our depth of what it would turn into if we did this. I need the history of the other teams in the league who have allocated this much money to their top 5 players. What happened to those teams? Has it ever been done to this degree? The easy answer may be no, because I would need the cap charges at the time.
Yeah.
Because, now we're paying 60 versus 5 years ago.
I mean, historically, if you have more than 50% of your salary cap or 60% off of 10 players or less, your average record, this was before they moved to 17 games, was 5-11. And the Cowboys would have more than half on 3 guys.
Can I follow up with, if they're having this discussion, should they have never just re-signed Lamb and Dak?
I'm sure. I think they have this discussion everywhere.
No, but if they did it, if they actually did it, should they have not done the other dominoes, including Diggs?
No, I think there might be some Diggs regret to some extent. I do think that if they were to move on from Micah, that's probably independent of some other. The money's part of it, but I think it's also part of just, hey, let's we're already making sure our culture's a certain way. Maybe we don't want to rebuild it totally in the shape of what Micah views it, and that we need something to be a little more. Hey, we want something a little more all in, not necessarily my stat line was empty today, so I'm skipping out on the locker, like he did after the Giants game. So I think I think it would be layered. I think there would be layered reasons for doing it, and it wouldn't just be as simple as saying it's because of what you paid Dak and CD.
I was also told that Zimmer acquiesced to Micah, and there was even a Lion package, which gave him, it was basically a 10-man defense, and Micah had free reign during that package.
It's a great band, Free Reign.
It will not be that way with Eberflus. That's what I was told.
And Eberflus, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, the highest sack total in the history of Eberflus's defense is pro or college as a defensive coordinator. It's Justin Houston getting 11 with the Colts. It is a get up the field, 3 technique, pass rushing type of defense that is not going to allow Micah to do some of the things that he's done previously. Jerry's
not going to do it. This will be my final take. Jerry's not going to do it, but Myles Garrett plus picks is also a real conversation being had over there. That's all I can tell you for now. That's all I can tell you for now.
What of these trades makes them better right now, and which one makes them better into the future?
Well, Hendrickson
makes. Well, it doesn't make him better right now because Mike is a better player.
Because the Browns one, if you get the number 2 overall pick in the top of the 3rd, that's 2 really big depth pieces right away.
It is. Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be furious with any of them. Except I wouldn't be furious. If you gave me the Chicago or the Cleveland one or the Philadelphia one, I could get behind it.
I would rather re-sign Micah, I think, on these. The only way it changes, if the Bears change that 5th to a 3rd, and it was the 10th, the 3rd round pick, and next year's one, then at that point I'm like, well, that's too much they're giving me. I can't say no.
Remember the Titans?
Exactly what it is. So I would ultimately sign off on Micah re-signing with these deals, but I think these are realistic deals you could get offered from these teams. Like I think they would absolutely offer these up to you, and that's what it is. Some of the feedback on the Frankel and Frankel Injury Attorneys fan text. 469, Dick LeBeau ran a 10-man defense for years, let Troy Polamalu do whatever he wanted on the field.
Yep.
903, can we trade Micah and Dak? Dak being traded is it's the same question as letting Dak walk. When you were letting Dak walk and they're talking about you accelerate all the cap charges immediately,
it's not happening.
Same thing if you trade him there.
Tolo Matt Thomas on Twitter, if you were to trade him, the Browns deal is the one you would want to take. You can turn that number 2 pick into more.
906, why would Cleveland do it? They could just draft the next Micah at number 2. In theory, you know who Micah is.
Right.
You're projecting Carter. Looks like most of the fan text here would say they'd take the Cleveland deal, though.
Good exercise, Roberto.
Thank
It'll
you.
be up at 105throughthefan.com here on Shan and RJ. It is DFW Sports Station. The Dallas Mavericks are making a 30 for 30. And unfortunately, it's not a good one.